BBOR, Black Box, online radio, coming to you from West Virginia. First, I would say that we've been having kind of a series of uploads on the case of Madeleine McCann. Then we're going to be continuing with that later today. This is kind of, a second upload that we're going to be doing because, as I said in the past, I never want the channel to only be about one case or one subject. So there's something else that I thought we should talk about because today we're going to be going back to December of 2012 and we're going to be examining one of the most famous crimes coming from the nation of India, and that is the 2012 Delhi gang rape. I would say I got into this one because I was watching the series Delhi Crime, which is available on Netflix, and it was something that I had been quite curious about because I had never really seen a miniseries that was presented the way that one did, not let alone about the subject material, but just the entirety of things. Like we watched lots of things like Law and Order and CSI, and as well as just other crime dramas. But I had never really seen a crime drama from India before, so I thought that this was something that I had been wanting to watch for a while. But one of the things that stood out to me in this particular miniseries, once again called Delhi Crime, was first and foremost, this is a very famous true story, and the second thing is just how heinous the nature of the crime was. And to kind of assist us with our discussion here, we have an article from the Huffington Post, a publication that I don't recommend that much, but their article, Delhi Bus Gang Rape, has intestines removed as shocking details of the assault emerge. And if you ever do see the film Delhi Crime, it's actually a miniseries. It was 7 parts, was it, or something like that? Then they kind of changed a lot of the names of the people involved with the case, but we'll just be looking at something here. Now, the victim in this case was 23 years old, and she was the one who survived the kind of brutal attack on a Delhi bus in December of 2012. She was with a male companion. Both of them were beaten with iron rods, and then, most famously, they beat the girl with the iron rod. They pulled her to the back of the bus while the bus was still driving. There were 6 men involved, and they all took turns raping her, beating her with the iron rod, and then shoving the 4-foot iron rod inside of her, raping her with the piece of metal. And it was later learned that this was kind of an L-shaped bar that was like the jack from the bus's machinery kit. The assault continued by having people forcing their hands inside her and grabbing a hold of her intestines and pulling them out. And there's really just no way to kind of say anything other than just the world is an evil and disgusting place sometimes. Not all of it is evil, but there are a lot of very bad people who do some heinous things. And it's just, this is one though that I don't think that the details of this will ever really get old, and that is something that the miniseries Delhi Crime really tried to highlight. Although it was actually panned by many critics, they thought they really didn't like some of the things that were presented, and mostly, I guess, because it wasn't a true story. The victim, it wasn't like they didn't stay to the historical events; their story was fictionalized. What actually happened to the victim is that she was airlifted out of India and flown to Singapore, where she went on and to pass away. But the thing that I have to say about this one is, I think that it's very important for us to always be aware of the sort of kind of true nature of the world. Like so many people ask me about why are you talking about this type of stuff? Why are you reading this type of stuff? And the real answer is just because it's true, and I don't think that we should ignore the kind of major types of problems that we have in the world and just pretend that it's not there, because that is not helpful. And it's with this in particular instance, we do have to recognize that as a human species, as part of humanity, we have a long way to go, and we have to get better because some things are just unacceptable. And one of the things, though, is when I was just trying to pull up that article from the Huffington Post, another thing that really was disturbing is, they were just like, which Delhi gang rape are you talking about? The one in 2012, the one in 2016, the one in 2013? And just countless searches were coming up like that in the autofill, and I'm like, oh my gosh. it's absolutely heinous that these types of things exist. But another thing is, though, I was reading an article from the New York Times that was talking about this, about why do people kind of read up on true crime? Why do people learn about true crime incidents at all? Like, why are we even talking about this now? First and foremost, it's because, well, one thing that they didn't mention in the New York Times article is this is part of, life and history and human studies, and we can't only see the parts that are just sunshine and rainbows, but the other part is people are drawn to true crime because it reinforces the principles of security in society. That's not really my statement. That was just something that the New York Times mentioned. And when you just hear these details about a woman being raped with an iron rod and then pulled out, and then men are forcing their hands inside her and pulling on her large intestine and her small intestine, disgusting. But on the same time, though, is when we learn about these things, it also tells us that we have we really have to kind of make society much safer, whether it's the United States of America or it's India or it's any country in the world. Because right now I would say that it's just we're in a very dark place with many, many things like this. And a lot of these things have probably happened for years. It's just that they have been going on in the shadows. And I find that very saddening. In a previous upload on this channel, I mentioned once that I was watching a video from the Humanity Party, one of those third parties out there that is kind of new and up and coming. And they had this thing where it was someone in the Middle East who was well, his one of his family members was the victim of, a casualty in war, like one of the bombings, and he was picking up the body of someone, and it was just an arm, a head, and the spine, and you could see the spine hanging out, and he's just, screaming and crying as he's holding this arm, head, and spine, and I was like, this is the reality. This is what is happening around the world, and it's very valuable to comprehend that type of suffering. And it's not that I can comprehend it on sort of, I've experienced this myself firsthand, but just to know that once again, this is real life and we shouldn't be hiding the truth. And it's important to look at about why some of these things are happening. And I mean, this incident in India really revolutionized a lot of the discussions. They were just like, our system really needs to change, and we really need to kind of improve our system and social issues. And a lot of people were taking to the streets and just really trying to just have the whole sort of stance. Not even a conversation. I was about to use the word conversation about the rights of people, but it's more just taking a strong stance that many things that have happened in the world are unacceptable, and in short, our situation sucks and we need to get better. But once again, we have these types of things because spreading awareness about some of the incidents in true crime reinforces the need for principles of security in society. Now, I would like to say that this segment here is going to be dedicated to Jyoti Singh Pandey, who was the victim of the 2012 gang rape. And some people were just very surprised that they were kind of changing lots of names in the show Delhi Crime. And once again, though, it's like so many of these were just things that had I mean, there are multiple cases of this going on, and it's just, why is this happening so frequently? Because it's a messed up world. And as a human species, part of the human race, we have a long way to go. But what I would say about this is that let's just kind of think of a world that can be a better place, and let's look at, just something that can hopefully we'll find some goodness at the end of the journey. That's all for me now. Until next time.